Awesome. Thanks so much, Noah, and glad that everyone is here. So let's dive into accessibility test coverage. And I am Glenda the Good Witch Sims. I love it if you call me Good Witch. I'm a huge fan of Wicked. Up on screen, I have imagery from the musical Wicked. I've had the great honor of working for Deque for 10 years, and I live and breathe A11Y. So let's get started because I've got some exciting news to share with you guys. First, let's start with accessibility testing and time. I really want you to think about if you have enough time and resources to do the accessibility testing you need to do, whether it's for your own company or whether you work in a company like I do where you're helping others. Is there enough time to do all the things that need to be done when it comes to accessibility testing? And I also want to do a thought experiment here, and I'd love it if you threw these into chat of how long does it take for you to manually test an average web page? I know that's a loaded question. I know there is no average web page, but when you're testing for WCAG 2.0 AA or WCAG 2.1 AA, when you're up at the 2.1 level, that's 50 different success criteria. And I'm going to guess at what might be coming in on chat if anybody's answering it. I've seen numbers or heard people say as low as 30 minutes. And I've seen numbers that are, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6, 8, and larger. Noah, has anybody fed any numbers in, or are they being quiet and shy?
Yes, we're getting 30 minutes to 2 hours, longer than expected. Yep. A few hours, couple hours.
Great. So I miss our live audience location, so I appreciate that so much. So now that we have that feedback from you about how long it might take you, now how quickly do those test results rot? You know what I think? They start rotting before I finish the test sometimes, because somebody is changing the code that I'm literally testing. I can't get them to freeze. I wish I could get them to freeze, but also understand in this dynamic world that we live in that's moving at the pace of light, that those manual test results are not happening on static pages that aren't changing. So with this concepts of, do you have enough time? How long does it take? And how quickly is it rotting? Houston, we have a problem. And I think we all sense this. There's this strong desire for us to make everything accessible. And yet finding the right resources and using them economically and wisely is super tough. So before I give you some of the news, I want you to think about some other things. And that is, what WCAG success criteria have the most issues for you? Maybe you're like me, and you've been at this for 20 years and you've tested every type of site in the sun, and you have a sense of, it's this, and this, and you can just spout them out, okay? And I'd like you to actually jot them down on paper or throw them into the chat, because I want to see if, before I show you what I've discovered, if you had the same instinct from your experience as well. So now that I've had you think about that, and I'm not going to ask for those answers yet, because I know y'all are talking to each other back there, and that's great. You're about to give me the feedback when we get here right now. There's one more critical question before I show you the data. How much can automated testing help us? I've been in this for a long time. I've been saying it myself, what I think the percentage is of how much automation can help. So on average, what percentage of your issues do you think can be found by an automated tool like AccessU? Not how many success criteria, but what percentage of your issues? Do you think it's 10? Do you think it's 15? Do you think it's 20? Do you think it's 25? Do you think it's 50? Are you one of those people that wants to write in your own answer? Awesome, do it. Because I got news, and it blew me away when I saw it for the first time. It dawned on me that we're sitting on a gold mine at Deque because we do audits, full audits, manual audits that also take advantage of the AccessU rules, but are fully testing for WCAG 2.1, all 50 success criteria. We do all the manual testing, screen readers, whatever assistive technology we need to pull out. I'm sitting on big data. And what we decided to do, we've looked at it a couple of different ways, is first we looked at it for everything we've done over a long period of time. And then we thought, well, that might skew the data because we've got some audits in there that are client comes, gets their first audit, they make some fixes, and then they get their second audit, and then they make some fixes, and then they get their, yay, they got it. So that might skew the results. So we decided to sift through the data and just pull up new clients that hadn't done the remediation yet. Now here is the data. And I'm about to show you a slide that is very data intense. And I'm real sensitive that there are, I hope, a large number of people on this session right now that can't see this slide because we're an inclusive audience and we should have some people here that are not seeing the slide. So I am going to take some time to describe some of this. In the meantime, Noah, if you could put a link into chat where our final report is of this so that everyone can relax and know you can download the report that this is coming from.
I will do that right now.
Fantastic. Okay, so here's the high level notes that I'm trying to emphasize on the slide. It says Deque comprehensive audits for new clients. So it has been restricted just to new clients that haven't done any remediation. And I'm going to have anyone that can see the screen drop to the bottom visual on the screen where it says the percentage of automated issues found across thousands of pages, and it's hundreds of thousands of issues that were found, is 57.38%. Anybody surprised by that? I'll tell you, when I first saw the data, I was like, wow, is that true? And we dug and verified and dug and verified. And so that's 42.62% that were found manually. I want to take a moment to tell you that on screen, I have the top 15 most failed success criteria by issue count, okay? Who's surprised that the number one is 1.4.3 contrast minimum? Probably no one, okay? No surprise there. The next one is 4.1.2, name role value. 1.3.1, info and relationships. 4.1.1, parsing. 1.1.1, non-text content. There's your alt text. You knew it was coming. Followed by focus order, keyboard, focus visible. And I was thrilled to see at number 9, non-text contrast, or WCAG 2.1. Coming up there at number 9, number 10, use of color, number 11, meaningful sequence, number 12, labels or instructions, 13, bypass blocks, 14, page titled, and 15, language of page. And then there's the rest of them, right? And that was the other stunning moment for me, is after I got over the shock of 57.38% were found automatedly. OMG, automation can give us more lift than I realized. And I'm not negating the importance of the manual, and I'm not throwing away all 50 SC. No, no, no. But what I'm trying to say is that our results rot so quickly, we got to be really thoughtful about how we use our time and energy. And then I saw the other startling thing, and that is those top 15 success criteria that I just read to you accounted for what percentage of all issues? Hello, 94.54%. Jaw drop. I hope you're having a similar jaw-dropping experience about the data, and I hope you're ready to pound me with questions, because I think this is a really fun intellectual debate. So as we move forward on this, and where is my little thing, and why is it not moving forward? Come on. There we go. There we go. So big data, let's just go to a simpler visualization, and that is 94.54% of all issues WCAG 2.x, so that's 2.0 and 2.1 inclusive, fell into 15 success criteria. 57.38% were found with AccessU, were found with automation. And 42.62, very important, were found by manual testing. Okay. So, do these big data insights ring true to you? Or are you ready to pepper me with questions and wanting to dig in? I hope both. I hope it is ringing true, and I hope you do want to ask questions, because that's how we learn more. One of my favorite movies is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And there's a quote in there where Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka says, "We have so much time and so little to do." Oh, strike that, reverse it. And I really feel that way on screen. I have a fun visual of Willy Wonka from that movie, Gene Hackman. And this will come as no surprise to many of you who've been in the biz, of where do you want to catch your bugs? In a process, whether you're agile or not, you're going to have a design phase, you're going to have a list of things that you need to do, you're going to pick up and prioritize some things to get done, you're going to have a development cycle if it's agile, sprint, scrum, you're going to have a shippable product and a deployed system. Where do you want to catch your bugs? You certainly don't want to catch them at the back end. When we do accessibility testing at the end, it's a surprise. It creates risk. It's such a higher cost. And then there's this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth between whoever's doing the testing and the people in development that didn't expect these. And it's just expensive. You know, you've experienced the cost of your accessibility bugs. They're so much less expensive to fix when you're solving them and you're still on a whiteboard versus a little bit larger when you're solving them at a design phase. And yeah, you know, it's not tiny when you're solving it at a development phase. It's a bug, gotta fix it. But it starts getting really big when you're solving it at QA or after release. It is sometimes 10 to 15 times or more expensive. So truly, the longer it takes to discover an accessibility bug, the more it's going to cost your organization to fix it. So really compelling for why we need to shift our accessibility testing into the earlier phases so that we're not catching the accessibility problems between, oh, I'm ready to ship in an hour versus, or worse, I've deployed, to back at least into the development lifecycle. Now, these are not the only places you can shift left. You can shift into your design. You can shift into your product backlog. But right now, I'm going to focus in on what we can do in that dev cycle, which is proactive accessibility testing at the development stage by your really smart developers who do like to get things right. So speaking of get it right the first time, there's a tool that I want to make sure everybody knows about. It's called AccessDevTools. And on the left of the screen, I have the words proactive AccessDevTools and a picture of the shirt that I'm wearing, which is curly bracket. Friends don't let friends ship inaccessible code. You know why? Because developers really prefer not to have tickets coming back. You really want to get it right the first time. Versus what so many of us have to experience is the more reactive, far right testing that feels a little bit like a cartoon situation where you're caught on a treadmill that's going faster than you can even keep up with. And I do have a little image here from a very old cartoon from when I was a little child of George Jetson running on the dog walking treadmill, and his dog Astro is watching him, and George is saying, "Jane, help, stop this thing." Because any of us that have lived that reactive testing, we certainly do want to get off that treadmill. So what I'd like to introduce you to right now is AccessDevTools. And some of you may have already experienced AccessDevTools. Awesome if you're ahead of the game. If you haven't, it is a form of intelligent guided tests specifically designed for developers. And I want to pose this question. And the first time I saw these stats, I was like, prove it to me, because I don't believe it until I see it with my own eyes. Developers with intelligent guided testing, IGT, really are finding anywhere from 72 to 83% of the WCAG issues without being formally trained in accessibility. It's profound. Now, those numbers may seem like, okay, Glenda, what? But I want you to remember that Axe Core is accounting for 50% of those. So we are automatically running the free Axe Core rules and getting 50% or more, 58%. And now let me show you the intelligent guided testing concept. Remembering that the top 15 success criteria, I'm just going to read through them quickly by criteria name only, are in order: 1, contrast minimum; 2, name role value; 3, info and relationships; 4, parsing; 5, non-text content; 6, focus order; 7, keyboard; 8, focus visible; 9, non-text contrast; 10, use of color; 11, meaningful sequence; 12, labels or instructions; 13, bypass blocks; 14, page title; and 15, language of page, accounting for 94.54% of all issues found. What can we do to empower our developers? And anybody curious or wish I would stop talking about contrast? I often look at contrast numbers, color contrast 1.4.3 on text, and the number of issues that are thrown, and it's big. And it can be solved oftentimes in one place. So as a thought experiment, I thought, well, what if I take this data and I completely drop 1.4.3? Let's just assume we're going to fix it. It's going to get fixed up in the CSS and ruffle out on the site. It's just gone. We've solved it. Gang, we're still looking at 46.31% of all your issues being found automatedly. And even if we drop 1.4.3, because we've solved it, these other 14 issues account for 92.2% of all your issues you're going to find if you're like my customers. And I have looked at this deeply with medium size, large, small, and gigantic size. And these statistics are holding true. Is it the exact percentage? No, it's not the exact percentage. Is it in the ballpark? Is it in the neighborhood? Yes, it really, really is. So let me introduce you to intelligent guided testing. It's a powerful new feature in AccessU tools. Intelligent guided testing for developers is, I believe, 18 months old. It went through a beautiful beta. It's completely designed for the developer who's smart, wants to do the right thing, and is not an accessibility expert. What does it focus on today? Today, the areas that we have to support for: page information, page title and language, headings, lists, and images, buttons and links, keyboard testing. Hey, wait, we're getting complex here. Modals and focus management. Wow. And forms, labels, error messages, and required fields. That's some of, or a lot of, those top 15. So if you've never experienced AccessDev tools before, you can sign up for it right now. There's a free trial, 14 weeks. You can download it today. Once you get it downloaded, if you're already an Axe extension user, then you're going to be used to opening up the inspector, opening up AccessDev tools, and you'll still be able to run the Axe core rules to get your failures at a critical, serious, moderate, or minor level, to get your review issues. But you're going to see when you get the upgrade to DevTools that there's going to be an option for guided tests. And this is where we can start lifting developers to get it right the first time, without becoming, 10-year experienced accessibility experts too. So if you open the guided tests, the areas that will begin to populate, there'll be some panels. And the very first one will be keyboard and ARIA modal and page information. And they're like wizards. How many of you are in the United States and started working on your taxes? It reminds me of the wonderful tax wizards that help step me through my own taxes, which are complex to fill out, but you can guide me with well-designed questions. So let me show you a couple of these panels. The first one is so simple. I've gone actually into the page information one, and I've pulled up on the left a site that's called our Awesome Recipes site. It's a purposefully inaccessible site that Harris Schneiderman created for testing purposes. Thank you, Harris. And within AccessDev tools, the guided test asks a simple question. It says to me, okay, Glenda, this Awesome Recipes site with a recipe dashboard, it currently, the page title is, quote, bracket, insert title here. Does that accurately describe the purpose of the page? And there's radio buttons, yes, no. Really easy to answer. This is something the developers can get right the first time. Next question, we've on keyboard, this one's very powerful. Open it up and it will run automatically through the page, counting and marking the tab stops. I've run it on this Awesome Recipes page. It's just finished. I have a result of auto tab successful. 19 tab stops were recorded. Click next to continue. And it's then going to ask me, do you see a tab stop everywhere? Developer, there's supposed to be interactivity. And if not, it'll let you pick and show where they are. And before you know it, minutes later, you've finished keyboard testing and maybe prevented an accessibility issue from ever making it out of development. Couple more examples. ARIA modals. Seriously, it comes in and says, is there a trigger for the ARIA modal? And it has, it then checks to make sure that once the modal is open, the key control stays inside the modal and doesn't fall back out. And then it asks if there's a trigger to close. And then as you close it, it shows you where it's landing. And it goes, is this the right place? Did it return to the right place? Which the developer could fix before it even leaves their fingertips. So intelligent guided testing for devs, what I'd like to do now is, let me see if I can pull up and get this open. So instead of just looking at screenshots, we can look at this live. All right. So I've gone into demo mode, and Noah, I want you to watch chat for me if I'm not audio describing what I'm doing enough. And you attendees out there, hold me to the high standard. Please interrupt me. So I brought up a site. It's Broken Deque Workshop Netify.app that Harris created. I'm in Axe Dev Tools. I've run my first scan. It's found 33 total issues. 21 of them are for review. Because I'm aware of this site, I am going to go look at just those 21 issues and review them so that I can get them out of the way, because those can be worth reviewing. And down in the Dev Tools window in the Axe, it's in the Axe Dev Tools window. I'm inside the inspector and I'm in Chrome. There's a section that says the potential issues need your review, and please save your results to review. So I'm going to press a link that says save results. It's going to name my test, the lovely title of my page, insert title here. I'm going to save it. And I'm going to go back to reviewing those issues, and I'm going to highlight, there's an option in those review issues 21. I click on the 21 review issues link. I click on the highlight option, and sure enough, I get a hot pink highlight to the section of the page where it's now telling me, you know what? There could be a color contrast issue there. And because there's some foreground background imagery going on around there, we're not for sure that automation can figure this out. So I now have an option to manually review this and go, yes, this is an issue, or no, this is not. And so I'm going to click through and visually look at these 21 issues, checking if all of this content is visible at a strong enough contrast. For anybody seeing me do this, the contrast is so strong that I didn't even need to pull out any testing or look at any hex. It's practically black on white. And so went ahead and did that. Once I'm through there, and I didn't have to do that piece, I could have gone straight to the guided tests. Here's one of those guided tests in live action, okay? So if I go and do the simplest test of page information, there's a panel that says page information, guided test, not started, 0 issues found, with a link that says start testing page information. I click on it. It says, let's get started. Is your page in the right state? Yep, page is the way I want it to look before I start. I press the start. Here's what I've given you a screenshot of. The page title is insert title here. Does that accurately describe the purpose of the page? Heck no, that does not. Get this Zoom guy out of my way. Press next. And then ask me another important question. Is the majority of this content on this page in English? Yes, yes it is. It's my awesome recipe site for chocolate cake and spaghetti and grilled cheese. And so instead of just automation running saying there is a language attribute, it's actually the human being going, and this is English, and that's what the majority of the page is. Say next. I now have a detailed issue that's been written that has code snippets, how to solve, more information, finish, and I spent 1 minute and I was chit-chatting. Each one of these modules have that kind of simple walkthrough. I would like to show you one more. I'm gonna go for ARIA modal because I just think it's super cool that the Axe DevTools team took this one on, because there's a lot that we can get fixed at the dev level if we can get developers to understand this simple test. So I've opened up the ARIA modal intelligent guided test. Before you hit start, I'm going to make sure I put my site in the state I wish. I'm good. I'm on the right page. It asks me a question. Does the modal you would like to test have a button which launches it? Yes, my modal has a launcher. I'm familiar with the site. The page or the modal I'm going to click open is the Cook chocolate cake, but it's just asking me here, is there a launcher? So I'm going to say yes. And now it says, please select the launcher that triggers the modal you would like to test. And so I come over here and actually click on the Cook chocolate cake area. It's in a span on the page. And I click next, and intelligent guided tests triggered the modal because I told it where the trigger was. And then it ran a little test, and then it says click next to continue. It's now making sure that focus stays within the modal, tells me to click next, asks me a simple question. Can this modal be dismissed or closed? Yes, it can. I say next. It dismisses, tries to close, and I see that it's highlighting the whole scrollable area of the page as where it's landed back. And now the highlights all the way up here, the whole page. And it's like, hey, is that where I was supposed to go when it was dismissed or closed? Nope. So the return was not there. And then it wrote the error for me. When the modal is closed, the focus is not returned to the triggering element. Finished. I finished testing that modal in 2 minutes on top of chit-chatting. So I've given you 2 live examples of that. I'm going to shift back to my presentation, encouraging you to sign up for Axe DevTools 2-week free trial, and let you know that what I've shown you here is really just the beginning, because we will not rest until we can make more progress in having things be born accessible, empowering developers and designers to do their work right without 10 years of accessibility experience. We want to help people succeed, so you will see more intelligent guided tests coming. And what I'm going to ask you is to really commit to shift left, recognizing that you can save time and money. And I swear that you can have your developers with intelligent guided testing literally find anywhere from 72 to 83% of your accessibility defects during development. I'm not kidding. It's true. Does that mean manual testing experts like me will cease to exist and we'll get old and dusty? I don't think so. I think you'll still need us here and there, but I'd like you to use us for the really hard stuff, not the 72 or 83% that we can get fixed at the developer level. So I want to ask, are you ready to step into Willy Wonka's Wonkavator with me? I have an image on screen from the old Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory movie, where Willy and Charlie and his grandpa have just stepped into the Wonkavator. They're a little nervous. Why am I asking you to step in here with me? Because you know what we need to do? We need to break through this imaginary glass ceiling we put above our heads. We need to think different. We need to not just do it the same old way. Think sideways, think inside out, think upside down, just like the Wonkavator. Because we really can make our accessibility dreams come true. I believe it, and we owe it to all the people that came before us that built the foundation that our careers are currently built on. So let's make a better future. Time for questions. Noah, does anybody have any questions?
Oh, Glenda. Lordy, lordy, lordy. What an active, awesome bunch. You have no idea. I've been fervently trying to answer as many of these questions that I have.
Hey.
What a great bunch of people. Thank you so much, Glenda. Awesome presentation as always. There are some really good ones that I sort of didn't answer because I wanted you to kind of weigh in on. So one of the questions was, and we hear this a lot in the field, is around how long does it typically take for accessibility testing if you're doing a manual comprehensive audit? And in your estimation, how might use of a tool like IGT impact that time?
Yeah, so that's actually what we're experimenting on right now. And what I would say is if we're looking at full comprehensive all 50 success criteria for WCAG 2.1, and who knows what WCAG 2.2 is going to end up adding. Right now, we're looking at the efficiencies and moving the intelligent guided testing tool in there for our experts. But I will tell you that our primary goal at this moment is not to make it easier for the experts, but to make it easier for the innocent and intelligent developers so we can stop this further left. So I don't have the data yet, but I believe, here's what I believe. I run experiments all the time. If a person tests a relatively complex page, as in your average web page out there, and they've spent less than 2 hours on it, I think they've got a section they're missing. And if they've spent 8 hours, we could spend all day there. We could spend all day there. So I hope that this will move into the accessibility expert field, but our first focus is let's get the developers to do it. So it's not designed for me ideally yet.
Yeah, agree. Just from my own experience of talking in the field, it's exactly how the discussions go. It's really right now it's about kind of that shift left and using it upstream. And when you talk about efficiencies gained within a dev process, it's like the efficiency gained is 80% of your tickets. You might not need to write the tickets, right? You still need to do all the testing, but you don't have to write all the tickets, and that takes time. So totally agree.
And I want to say one more thing, and it's hard being accessibility expert inside a company that cares passionately about this, and to recognize I'm not their primary user target. It is that developer. And so it's really important that we not pollute the design to solve my needs, but that we design it for the developer so we can get that max lift at that level. And I'm a secondary customer. Accessibility experts are a secondary customer, so we're definitely working on it. So that's just a little bit more explanation. Fun question. I could talk about it all day.
Yeah, you and me both. There was another question that I thought was really interesting. A lot of questions about the data behind the research, and I tried to link in several of the replies to that coverage report because there's a lot of breakdown about how the data, how we source the data and what sort of applications and front ends and stuff. But there was a question about, did we look at sort of bucketing the applications and websites by specific types, like read heavy applications versus, and how that might affect the data? Did we slice or dice or look at the data?
We did some initial slicing and dicing. It was hilarious how little it changed things. Really? I think the only one that had like a significant change was there were some EDU sites. So we did slice it, and it was so non-useful that we didn't include it in the report.
Interesting. Okay, so but that's like in a certain way that's really heartening, right? The sampling was so general and so broad spectrum enough that we really did get a pretty good global view on that, and that's great.
It's very broad spectrum, and what's fascinating about our client base is how diverse of a client base it is. You know, one day I'll be talking to somebody that's heavy on interactive games, and another day I'll be talking to somebody that's financial, and you know, it's just it runs the whole gamut.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of questions in the chat about if we will eventually have any similar tools or support for native mobile environments.
And you know what, Noah, we need to answer that question after the fact. Can you find a way for us to answer that to whoever asked it?
Yep,
because I don't know the answer, but of course we want to,
yeah.
And I don't want to guess.
Yep, no, totally agree. All of the Q&A, for everybody's awareness, all of the Q&A will be archived and captured, and so we'll be able to, where we can, you know, reply to that sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I know, like you said, it's exactly the kind of thing that we, you know, are doing research on and stuff. But beyond that, there's not much more I can say. There are some questions about kind of comparing and contrasting tools, you know, like the ACCESS tool and the intelligent guided testing tools to some of the other awesome free accessibility testing tools. Sure. Like Wave and Accessibility Insights. Do you have any sort of general comments about how these things compare?
So what I've experienced is I haven't seen true intelligent guided testing in Wave. I see good automatic coverage in Wave, but I don't see IGT in there. And the accessibility insights we've looked very deeply at, and there were some pieces that have some similarities, but I'm a purist. Y'all have been doing this for 20 years. I come from an edu.org background. I do think that Accessibility Insights is in the vein of this, but it's not as advanced in how much it helps and lift, as well as very focused on developers getting through quickly and accurately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agree. Another question here, and this is, I love how specific this question is, from Nick the Geek. One of the biggest issues that come up is minimum contrast, and one of the more difficult issues to test is text over variable background, like images and gradients. Are there plans to add testing for this to DevTools?
So I do think that anything that's up in those high coverage areas, those top 15 success criteria, are absolutely in our target space right now. And not to say that there's only 15 that we're looking at, because we're also looking at things that even though it might not be something we can automate, we can certainly guide you through it. And let me give you an example. Testing multimedia for captions and audio descriptions is not something we can automate fully at this point, or I haven't figured it out. But Preeti Kumar is actually working right now on intelligent guided testing for that topic. So yes, we are. We want to cover the gamut.
Yeah, as much as possible. That makes sense. We've got 5 minutes left in our session, so we're going to keep cruising through these. This is actually kind of related to what I think you just said. Is there a way to use the ACCESS tool to test video or multimedia in the browser, or is it only for the physical content on the page?
There will be, I was just talking to Preeti about it last night. I don't know what her release cycle is on that, and don't know if that was like news I wasn't supposed to share because she's going to talk about it later. Yeah, and I don't know if you noticed, Preeti gets a little passionate about this, and once she gets something in her mind, she's like a freight train. So I anticipate you'll see that one pop in, you know, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, exciting stuff on that. Somebody asked, and I don't know if you can consult on this at all, but I'd like to figure out how to engage my development teams and contribute data to experiments like this. around, specifically around testing medical technology solutions. Like electronic health records and patient health records. Is there, do you have any advice for something like that?
So I think that the intelligent guided tests in AccessU tools, especially if we're talking about you've already got a web interface that you want to run this on, I think that you could have competitions and have work sessions with your developers and have them hack and see what is the fastest way for them to get through. And whenever I do this, we at the beginning called things that we did like this experiments. And the very first one was called the Preety experiment. we named them after whoever brought them up. And I think that kind of competition within an experiment inspires people to think different about making this work more doable. And know this, as your developers go through this, there was one interesting thing that I've discovered in intelligent guided testing. Remember when I showed you the page information screen where it asked those two simple questions of, is this an appropriate title and is this the appropriate language? Well, I can finish that testing so quickly, reliably, that my results at the end are the amount of time that I spent was 0 minutes. And that makes me mad. Because I'm like, hey, I spent 30 whole seconds in there and I finished a section. And so I wanted small things like that. What drives the developer? What makes it sticky? What makes them want to do this and be successful? So I would run hack days and experiment days.
Interesting. Yeah, sounds like fun. Several questions along this line. Is Deque doing sort of analogous research from a coverage perspective with our native mobile rule sets and tools? Is that something we're actively working on?
It is. I just only have so much room in my brain, so I don't have that data in it. But yes, we have a dedicated team working on that. I just don't have the Vulkan mind meld with them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I'll make sure to communicate that out to people that we're working on it. You know, we want those numbers as much as the HTML, but we just happen to get the web stuff first.
Yep.
Looking through the questions, I tried to answer as many of these as I could on the fly.
I want to ask people, do you feel that this data is compelling and that the way we've been talking about automated issues where we're only counting SC, like which SC were addressed, as opposed to truly counting the impact of the number of percentage of issues that are found automated to manual. Is this compelling to you, or are you like, yeah, whatever, Glenda? Because it made my day. I want to know, did it make yours? And I know there's a 22-second delay.
There is a 22-second delay, so we're going to see how it goes on the chat. I'm going to switch this over to recent. And we are at the hour. So I will watch the chat as we kind of wrap this up, but just to keep everybody as close to schedule as possible. You know, thank you, Glenda, for obviously sharing your time with us and this awesome research and a great session. Thank you to everybody for attending. Really blown away at the level of engagement and questions. Please enjoy the rest of your AccessCon. You know, stay safe and healthy. We love you guys very much. Have a nice day.
Love y'all. Bye. Thanks, Noah.